There are processes that have been taking place, that the process has started over the last couple of days, and that is voter registration. The IEBC is in full gear and saying, let's get into things. But even as we do, there are questions abounding in terms of how it is going to work. And that takes us into our final conversation for this morning. And we're in the company today, whether you're tuned in on our live streams or YouTube, Facebook, and on X, or joining in as our KTN audience today, or wherever it is that you're tuned in on terrestrial radio around the country, the region, and in the world. This is the Situation Room. Ndu and Dennis with you, and we're in the company of Major James Oswago, who is a former IEBC CEO, and he joins us this morning for us to have this conversation. Major Oswago, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Thank you very much.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to see you, even as we talk about getting into registration and exactly what it means or pretends when we're looking into a political system that is essentially decided by elections. The necessity of people to come out and put their stamp on this process usually is by registration, and then thereafter voting. So we'll talk about that a little bit, or actually quite a lot, as much as we can, as we get into this. But first, we'd like to welcome you with today's proverb. This week's proverbs come from Togo, which is a smaller geographical space in West Africa, colonized by the French and bordering, at least on the east and the west, by Benin and Ghana. And as we hear what they have to say, we'd love to get your interpretation. A child does not laugh at the ugliness of its mother. A child does not laugh at the ugliness of its mother.
One of the things I dread most coming here are the proverbs. Because you end up not knowing whether you're right or wrong.
Well, it's the thing about interpretation is that it's your opinion.
A child that no love, a child looks like the mother. Or picks things, you're more or less like your mom.
Yeah.
So you are not in a position to criticize, because that more or less is like what you are. And I think it is like saying you don't blame your mother's cooking. But I also suspect it also says that a child is not that you don't give children more intelligence than they should have. They can only think up to a certain level. That's why a child who can be critical of the mother's looks and cooking ends up not criticizing.
Shouldn't criticize.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess we can pick up quite a lot from that. See why we said an opinion is never wrong.
Yeah.
Because it's yours. Right? Okay, so let's look into this a little bit, shall we? Voter registration and the news that we're getting out of it. Low turnout on IEBC voter registration as it begins, but we're just in the beginning days. Voter registration drives us to a slow start. How and where you can register as a voter. IEBC announces resumption of voter registration from the 29th of September. So today's the 6th of October, coming in from the 29th, about a week or so. And so voter registration has been taking place. As a former IEBC chair, CEO, tell us what this process entails, and as we're trying to say, in order for you to give your opinion or what you think in terms of how leadership will be established in the country, the way you do that is through your vote. And you're not just going to rock up on the second Tuesday of August 2027 and vote without having gone through the process of documentation. And one of those is voter registration. What are we asking folks to do at this period?
In this country, we see voter registration as a distinct program in IEBC's strategic calendar. It is penciled, and it is said you'll do it on this date and this date and that date. The thing that is missed, and we should be taking tandem with voter registration, the thing that should be preceding voter registration is called voter education. And the reason why voter education is not done well by IEBC is not IEBC's fault. The fault lies in Parliament. Voter education is a very expensive activity. And I recall many times when you give a voter education program to Parliament, they would slash it up and say this can take 2 days. But why is voter education as an event which should precede voter registration so critical? Number one, people must know why they vote. That voting is not just a mechanical thing. For that to happen, they have to be very conversant with what is in Article 1 of the Kenyan Constitution. The article that talks about the sovereignty of the people. Sovereignty of the people is not just kizungu mingi. It means a lot. It's, so a voter should be sufficiently exposed and voted and educated to know what actually does it mean to feel and to act as a sovereign in the sovereign force. That requires extensive and very engaging voter education. The reason for that is that there are so many factors that impinge voter education negatively. Now, there are people who don't go to register because they don't see the need for it. And they don't see the need for it because they don't understand the strategic importance of really registering as a power of a vote.
And whose fault is that? If people don't see the importance of registering or don't understand the power of the vote, is this then why voter education must come in to explain to you really how much power you do wield, or then the impact that your vote would have on leadership and governance?
Exactly. And that's why I'm saying the instinctive reaction by the establishment is to look for money and set it aside for IEBC to do voter registration. And I know from experience, IEBC would say, before we do this voter registration, we need a comprehensive voter education program.
Okay.
And a comprehensive voter education program is designed by IEBC, not by the politicians in Parliament. One, because IEBC are the experts, and two, because IEBC lives with the consequences. So, to make Kenyans understand and own the process and really get involved in registering as voters, they have to first and foremost internalize this thing that we are calling sovereignty of the people. What does it mean when you say you are sovereign? Because you only exercise that sovereignty through voting, not through attending a political rally, not through being a member of a political party. Those are subsidiary things. The real core of sovereignty is when you go to cast your vote. And people should really know what it means, the power that you have when you go to vote. Therefore, the first thing in my view, like IEBC now have rolled out voter education.
Yes.
Voter registration.
Registration, yes.
I don't recall, maybe I'm not very close to the news as you are. I don't recall an extended period that IEBC declared we are going to go for voter education program for 1 month.
Well, I mean, they just got into office. It's been less than 3 months since the new chair and everybody came into place.
Excellent.
That could be the reason being given for it.
Very good. Then the thing that should have happened then, perhaps, is to delay voter registration and start with voter education comprehensively. They will not do that because they know how Parliament will react. But what should happen? Parliament will react.
How?
If you go to Parliament and tell Parliament, voter registration will take, say, 3 billion shillings. And you tell the same Parliament that I'm looking for a budget of 3 billion of voter education to precede that. To them, in the scale in which they see things, they say, no, proceed with voter registration. And you'll proceed with it, and people will come. But invariably, two things happen. One, people will register mechanically because it is something that they have to do. Two, they will not understand the idea of the sovereignty of the vote. Because that is, democracy is nothing if voters don't really realize what that vote means. Because when they understand what sovereignty means, one, it will lead them to vote, one, two, to register. Then it also informs how they exercise their choices at the ballot box.
So the issue here, I'm catching your drift in this sense that, so there's what IEBC has as a plan. You have your own calendar, so you've scheduled everything and how everything needs to fall into place. That leads then to the election. So you have to register, you have to do civic education, you have to travel. So there's also a question of logistics beyond all these other things that need to be procured. But then to get the money to do that, there's, of course, the budgeting around voter registration, like what we are currently saying, but then voter education. So you're saying if you're to go then to Parliament, and how then they see things is they will say, okay, let's give you money for registration, but they will not necessarily care about the voter education part of it.
It's not that they don't care.
They don't see value in it.
They don't valorize it. It's that they give it a low valuation. To them, because money is limited, they would rather spend the money in voter registration rather than spending money in voter education. And it's not civic education, it's more than civic education, because a proper voter education program, one, it's something that is continuous. Two, is engaging people at the personal level, okay? Not only that they are conversant with the laws of the land, but they're also conversant with the power that they wield. A vote is a very powerful instrument, but if not wielded properly, it's not of much use. So what we want are voters who, one, are aware of their power, number one. Then influence those voters, persuade those voters to go and register. Once they're aware of their power, they will register on their own locomotion. You will do very little. So you need to spend more time in voter education, spend more money in voter education, engage with people, not only for them to understand the Constitution and for them to understand the relevant laws and legislation, but for them to understand the power that inheres in a vote.
So it seems to me there's a correlation between the two, but I don't know. I'm just thinking. So currently what we have, the latest numbers, I don't know about today, but last week what we were seeing is the numbers. IEBC was saying, look, we are getting very low turnout, especially from the Gen Zs. They're not really turning out in the numbers they expected to register in the different centers. Then the argument here is, so your voter registration, then pursue voter education. In your, what should then come first? Number one, is it voter education, then register these people that you've already educated? And secondly, part two of this question is, how much of voter education happens between elections compared to right before an election like what we have now? We can quote-unquote call, though it's not official, we are already in an election fever. And so we are doing all these programs right now. But how much of it then, which is the part two of my question, should then happen between the elections? After this has happened, let's start thinking of continuous programs instead of waiting until we're close to another election to do it.
The answer to your question is, we can give the longer one. Let me give the summarized one. Number one, Article 88 of the Kenyan Constitution provides that there will be continuous voter registration. Continuous voter registration in Article 88 is listed as part of the 11 tasks or constitutional mandate of IEBC. Now, there is continuous voter registration, there's periodic voter registration. You go to the Regular Commission report, and Regular Commission report looked at these two continuous voter registration and periodic voter registration. And the regular commission report expended a lot of effort and a lot of ingenuity and skill in saying which one is which and which one is recommended. Cutting a long story short, the regular commission preferred periodic voter registration. It said this continuous thing is not very productive. Continuous voter registration means if you walk into an IEBC office today, you should be registered, with or without voter education. It's a function which you walk into their office, they should. Periodic voter registration is what they're doing now. Now it is done as a complement to what is constitutionally mandated, isn't it? But what are they doing now? They have put a calendar and they're doing voter registration now because it is a calendar-driven event, and also because the Constitution asks them to do it regularly. I've told you that regular commission recommended against that, but this is the new Constitution. Now, we are confronting the reality of what the regular commission had seen. So now you said Gen Zs are not voting as enthusiastically. Are not registering as enthusiastically as you would want them to register. And the reason you are saying so is you've looked at the population register and you said there are so many Gen Zs and this is how many of them. And you think this turnout is lackadaisical, this turnout is indifferent, and you are unsatisfied, okay? But have you engaged with Gen Zs? Have you really engaged with them on a continuous basis so that they understand as you make this transition from being a student to now an adult citizen? Because Article 83 of the Kenyan Constitution says, for you to vote, you must be an adult citizen. Right? So you can be Gen Z who is not yet an adult, but it's of no use to you until now you can register. So now you are telling them, this activism that you have must now transit from mere activism to actual voting. So you need to engage with them. Before you blame them that they are not registering, have you really engaged with them?
And that's why I asked, should voter education come first before voter registration?
It must come first. Voter education, not only chronologically fast, but it should come first in a much more substantive manner. We should spend more resources in terms of voter education than perhaps even in voter registration itself. Because if you spend more money, more resources, more time in voter education, the net effect would be an increase in voter registration.
But now that's what is not happening currently.
It's not happening because voter education today is not being done, in my view, as it should be done.
Is this an understanding? Because the body then that is tasked to do this is the IEBC. There is no other body in as Kenya, as far as Kenya is concerned, that would carry out voter education. And I mean, the importance of it is not lost on us. We can see why it's necessary to do that. But then one would ask, what would it entail? What would a voter education program look like? What would you be educating on and around? And what would it cost? Would it be more expensive?
Very expensive.
Voter registration?
Very expensive.
What would it entail?
Number one, a voter education program is designed by IEBC in consultation with the civil society and everybody else. It's not just IEBC sitting internally and designing it. So a proactive and proper voting education is one that IEBC designs, discusses with the civil society and everybody else, then they agree on it. And even now implementing it also requires IEBC itself in conjunction with that other larger society. So you facilitate them to do it in their own level, but you also do it yourself. It means going to schools. It means finding space where you can talk to these people. It means getting feedbacks from them and also hearing from them. Some of the reason why there is voter apathy is because of disenchantment with the political process. Now, people have to be disabused of that. You have to talk to people that you don't refuse to register as a protest because you are dissatisfied with the political system. If you are dissatisfied with the political process, the greater the reason for you to register so that you can fashion it and change it. It means engaging with the people. It means taking time and talking to them and getting the feedback. IEBC, from my own experience in IEBC, has the experience. IEBC has a whole department of voter education, a whole directorate. And it's a very frustrating thing trying to convince people with the money that you want this, and then they tell you, no. You want voter education and voter registration? Go ahead with voter registration. So, in short, we will have to spend more resources and more time in voter education to get the result that we want to get from the voter registration. Otherwise, you will get this lackadaisical registration that we don't want.
Are people registering just to vote because it sounds like it's the flavor of the month come every August, every 5 years? That sounds like something that you ought to do. Or do we see that people are vested in the process to understand the transition between your vote and leadership or governance? How would you place people, Kenyans?
Correct. You see, as it is today, it's a mechanical thing. It is a calendar-driven event. That is what is being done now. And I've got time, let me go and do it. I've got extra time, let me go and do it. But this is not something that you really want to leave other pressing issues to go and do. All right. Now, for it to achieve the importance that we are saying, you need to engage people and tell them the vote matters. And it matters in this sense and that sense. It matters when you want to change. It matters when you want the status quo to continue. But whatever the case, you have a role to play. Not in attending political rallies, not in being a member of a political party, but in actually going out there and voting. You see, we are lucky in this country that we don't have a lot of inhibitions to the voter registration process. In other places, a lot of things are put on the way to inhibit voter registration. You know, things which are put to, like what they call voter suppression in America. You know, in the place like the US, today, political parties and leading politicians are out of their way to inhibit voter registration, you know, by many other things, all right? But in Kenya, that is not there. So the only thing we have is to enable, to empower people to go and register. My view is that we will not get the results that we want or that we claim that we want until and unless we address the issue of voter education, the content of voter education, the reach of voter education, and lastly, how much it is spread. I've told you that there is something called continuous voter registration, which is what IEBC is doing, which means it registers voters every day. I have told you the Kriegler Commission looked into all these things, and the Kriegler Commission conclusion was that periodic voter registration was much more productive than continuous voter registration. But the Constitution ignored that. The framers of the Constitution came up with the continuous voter registration. Now that we have continuous voter registration that IEBC must do, we must also put comparable resources in continuous voter education. Not just as some adjunct thing that IEBC must do, but as a critical component of the process of getting people to actually end up going and vote.
So we've had a situation where in the past elections we've had voter apathy. So you've gone through the education, you've gone through the registration and everything, but still at the end of the day, you look at the numbers, even in the 2022 election. Now, for a long time, Kenyans have had trust issues with our electoral processes, whether it's for political reasons and whatever else. But my question is, how does that then affect the willingness for the participants or for the people then engaged to feel, you know what, let's own the process? Yes, we are being told this is why it's important to then go and vote. But how does IEBC then rebuild that trust deficit so that then voter education in this case will then lead to real civic engagement? Because it's one thing to tell somebody why it's important to them to vote, but also it's equally important to then have an engagement where you are telling them and they fully understand and they actually put in practice what they've been told.
There are so many components of what you call voter apathy. Voter apathy can come along because people believe even if a cast ballot, it will not reflect the will of the people. And that could come up because of low-level trust deficit with IEBC. That's just one, where you say, well, even if I cast my vote, for example, the vote will be rigged anyway, so why should I vote?
My one vote will not matter.
It won't matter.
Yeah.
Even if a vote will be rigged anyway, that's one. And here they are blaming IEBC. But just one component. But the other part, larger part that creates voter apathy is disenchantment with the entire political process. Politicians have promised you A and delivered Y. And you are asking yourself, even if I vote, it doesn't matter.
So how can you disconnect yourself from that? Because this is the thing, that we hear public sentiment. We hear things like, okay, what could lead to somebody essentially rigging a vote, or hiding votes, or adding votes, and these things come out into the public. So how far-reaching are the effects of public sentiment such as that on folks coming out now and saying, I'm going to register, if in their minds the decision is already a done deal? How far-reaching are things like that on a process such as that which is currently ongoing?
Well, the belief that an election will be rigged can lead to voter apathy. So that people decide, I'm not going to vote anyway. But this is the reason why voter education is important. So that people know, precisely because you think it's going to be rigged, turn out in large numbers and then guard your vote. And secondly, just because the political system is not delivering on what you want, and you have got low trust level of politicians, they are liars, they are cheats, what they are telling you will not materialize, and you are disenchanted with the politics. That is no reason for you not to vote. Because when voter apathy is also voting by apps, you're sitting at home, you're already voting, or you didn't go to the voting station, you didn't check but you voted.
You voted by saying you don't care?
Don't care.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that cures this is maturity of the democratic process. 2, a deliberate effort to get the voters to get engaged in all this political process. But it is important to note that voter apathy is not just a Kenyan thing. Everywhere there is voter apathy if you ask yourself, the percentage of the population in places like UK who actually turn out and vote is very kidogo. And it keeps on getting smaller and smaller. And that's why they're talking of democracy deficit decline of democracy in the West. They are democratic, but the numbers that actually actively go to take part in politics is slowly declining because of apathy with politics. People don't trust him, and things like those. So in our case, if we want our people to turn out in large numbers and vote, number one is to reform the political process so that the voter feels actively engaged. And two, this is voter education. But the most important thing is for the voter to know, even by not voting, you've already voted.
Okay.
So if you really hate a system so much, go and vote. Take time, go and vote, number one. Number two, register. Because people say, oh, even if I vote, the voters, the politician will buy the voters. Go and vote to show that you object to what is going on. So voter registration that we are doing now, the reason why our voter registration is not going to be successful as we would want it to be, in my view, is because we have not found a way to engage the voter at the stage of voter education.
Okay. And should it be a one-time event or should it be a continuous process? Well, because it's like a conveyor belt. You always have people who are coming into the system at the end of this year, for example. Those who've graduated from high school will probably get into the place where they can get IDs next year, right? But it's a rolling thing. But we seem to make it an event and say, okay, for the next 8 months from September, there will be voter registration and or education, whatever the case may be. Shouldn't it be a rolling kind of system?
No.
No?
What it is today is the rolling system you're talking about, because it is continuous.
But nobody spoke about it until September. We didn't have an IEBC in place.
No. Whether we spoke about it or not, IEBC's role is continuous voter registration. If you go to IEBC offices on any given day,
you can be registering.
They should be able to register you.
They should be able to, or they are registering you.
Well,
there's a difference.
I'll have to come back again to answer that question.
Come back again another day?
To answer that question.
Oh, let's do it now, Major, because you should be able to walk into IEBC office with or without commissioners in place and register. Should be ideal, but is it real actually happening?
The reason is the law provides for continuous voter registration.
Okay.
So we proceed from the assumption that IEBC is ready to register you any day.
Your choice of words is very interesting, James.
The question is whether that is what IEBC does. For example, if I walk to Makadara polling station
right now,
tomorrow, no, would they register me? And if I did so in, say, December 15th, as far as I know, you should find someone there to register. All right. People are not registered because IEBC is not there. People don't register because they themselves don't see the value in going to register. They don't see the value in going to register because their judgment of the quality of politics, their judgment in the outcome of elections, and their relationship between politics on the one hand and their well-being. If Kenyans found that active engagement in politics can result directly and immediately in improved well-being, people will get engaged.
Major.
That is the reason why today when you call a rally in Kenya today, and did you see these mega rallies where you find 100,000 attend? I want to disabuse you of the belief that you just tell them, Kunaba, there's a rally tomorrow and they come.
No, they're constantly talking about it, and that was my point, Major. Because
not constantly alone.
Yeah.
This thing costs millions and millions and millions of money. People are given money, 200 to go and come and attend. You know? But a politician cannot give you money to go and register.
Let's look at this practically, Major. Let's take a spiritual event, for example, crusade. Is that not what they're called? Crusade. Nobody gives people money to go to a crusade. You know why? There is an inherent belief. There's something inside that tells you that if you go to this belief, there will be miracles, signs, and wonders, and your sins will be forgiven, and then there will be healing that will take place across board. Right?
Correct.
Inside, there's something that somebody says, I'm speaking to the subjective here. I'm speaking to the soul of this person, and I don't have to do more than convince them regularly. Every week on the radio there is an announcement or something, and they know that it's on this date. They don't forget it. They will go.
Yes.
Right? And here we are with something of the same nature. An election is not different in terms of the makeup or the character of what we're asking people to come out and do. That thing inside you that believes that you could have better leadership or governance. But then we've given it to a group of people to handle the mechanics around which we operate. But we don't talk about it. We don't discuss it. We don't announce to people. One of the things that happened by government that was so successful was the changeover of currency. About 6 years ago, every opportunity that the governor of the central bank had, you've never seen the man before, but every opportunity that he had, he spoke about it. Everywhere he went, he talked about it. They put in the media. They announced it every time you turn on the radio. All you were hearing is that there was a change of currency. By this date, so nobody had an excuse. By the time the money was being changed, people would even ask, you've not changed your money, there's something wrong with you. Or you've not handed it over, there's something wrong with you. Because it was in the public arena, everybody who was obsessed with the process talked about it. The leader of the group came out, and it was very clear that this is what we're going to do. So anybody who had currency after that date that was outdated, they would have themselves to blame. Can we not get to the point whereby voter registration, if it's supposed to be happening in IEBC offices every day, it should actually be in public knowledge? Something as serious as this, that is going to connect somebody's insides of what they feel towards an outward expression of the same by a vote, it's not talked about. It's not talked about. And we're here saying that, which to a very large extent, high degree, I agree, if you don't vote, you have yourself to blame. But there's a process that takes place that we don't talk about. And we expect that we can announce 2 days before this event is supposed to take place and tell people come out and register and vote, or whatever the case may be. We expect that people are going to come out just because we said 2 days later. But we've not talked about it before then, and after the election comes, we're not going to talk about it again until a few months to the election. We know very well how human nature is. Why don't we take all these things into consideration and operate with them?
Since I came here, that's what I've been telling you. Exactly what you've summarized better than me. That's what I've been saying, that people will not just turn up to vote unless they're stakeholders. People will not turn up to register unless they're stakeholders in the process. And I said the mechanism for doing that is voter education. And voter education is expensive. So if we do what the governor of the central bank does, and everybody else does that, if we do the equivalent, the comparative thing in terms of voter registration, people will register. You use the example of crusades. People go to crusades because they have got, there is this prosperity gospel, and there is also your gonjuas, you think in the Kenda Uko and the Tibiwa. If we had that faith in the electoral process, people would go and register as voters. And how do they get that faith in the electoral process? Voter education. And voter education, like I've told you, is expensive. It's something that IEBC does, but you need to support IEBC. You need to facilitate IEBC. I will tell you today, and I will repeat this again. If you don't give IEBC the resources to do effective voter registration, voter education, what IEBC will do is exactly what they're doing now. They will do this this campaign. I don't know how long this one is going to last. They might say maybe a month. And then at the end of it, they say 6 months later, they do another one. I can see them doing it this year. I can see them doing it next year also. Because they must stop voter registration just before the election. So I'll see them doing it. But if you keep on doing the same thing same way and expecting different result. There is a name for it.
Madness. Okay.
My question is, actually, it's a question a lot of people are asking. So, for example, because we're talking about voter registration and education, right off the bat, somebody says, I have voted once in a Kenyan election. Does that mean I'm registered, or I need to register before every election?
Once you have registered as a voter, you have always registered. But this is the part that I was saying voter education is important. You go and you register, all right? Then there'll come a time when IEBC will tell you, go for the inspection of the register. Meaning, where you registered, you now go back to the same place and ask, my name is so-and-so, am I registered? Okay? So you are registered in the same place. Because IEBC does so many things to validate, to update, and to put current the voter register. So it is your obligation, one, to register in one particular place. It is also your obligation when the time comes, or at any given moment, to go and say, I want to check if one, I'm in the register and in this specific constituency. If you are not there, there is time for you within IEBC. So it will transfer. You can transfer from one place to the other.
So is it also a time period when that will happen, or is it because there is verification? So you voted before, but you're still not, you want to confirm whether your name is still in that register. So you go check to confirm. But then there's also this process of trying to register new people who've never voted. They have their ID and they want to get registered for the first time. And then there's now the voter education bit. So is this a component that is separate, or is this continuous?
If you are registered, your name is in the register.
Yes.
If you have not, if your name is in the register. So when you go to check if your name is in the register, this is the thing that you do periodically. It's on your own. Your name is already there. You can still come on the date of the voting and vote. But this is good for your own self-confidence, for your own satisfaction.
To just be sure.
Just be sure. But it is good to do. Just go and check if my name is still in the same place. Because the voter register is a live thing. It is going changes every single day. You are removing dead voters. You are removing unqualified voters. And every time there's a process they call deduplication to make sure that in you now, where you are registered, you are in Kenya, you are the only person in that particular place. So this is why you go to check. The new people who are registering are they're going to register afresh in a constituency before the voting, or at any time you want. You go and check if your name is still there. But many people hardly do that.
But which makes me wonder, and that's why there's always this confusion. And I get the point of voter education, and all these things need to then be addressed. Let's say somebody, last time they voted in the last election, they were in Budalangi. Now they moved to their family, they're in Mombasa, or they're in Kilifi, for example. So this person has to leave Kilifi, go to Budalangi, where they registered, to confirm whether their name is still in the register. Am I correct? So it's still very manual.
No, if he wants to change.
No. To check.
To check, to confirm.
Check, to confirm whether they are still registered where they last registered.
I don't know. I think IEBC has become so digitally sophisticated that perhaps you can even check that from any other station. I'm not sure.
Because I was wondering, with technology today, it should be made easy for somebody who is anywhere from your office. Even right here in this studio, I can just key in my name, my ID number, for example, and just check, oh, okay, so I'm still registered, and it's telling me I registered. Because a lot of people even forget where they registered, last time they registered.
I would bet that IEBC has got the mechanism for you to check from wherever you are. Yes. The thing that will change, if you want to alter it in one way or the other, that may be different. But if you just want to change that I voted in Kamukunji, is my name there, IEBC is sufficiently sophisticated that can be done online. I'm not sure, but I think my thinking is that IEBC
Given amount.
IEBC is there. I think that one they've done.
Okay, well, I think it's not too hard. We can find out.
Yeah.
Give us ballpark. This voter education that we talk about, which obviously clearly is not happening in the country, at least to the levels that would be satisfactory at best and the least. Give us ballpark. What would it look like to finance voter education in the country?
Let's say this, that you are going to do a periodic voter registration, okay? And it's starting in January, okay? So you have 5 months before. And you want to spend maybe 3-4 months because to do the voter education for this, because voter education is also continuous. And you are sufficiently well resourced. I think that will be something like 4 billion.
Per what?
Per episode, per period. It's expensive. It's a very expensive thing. It's a very expensive thing because you are talking about even what you are doing now is part of voter education, for example. But they would be coming here deliberately talking to people. They would come to you, in the newspapers. You are trying to reach people where they are to motivate them that they go and register. Now, when you motivate them to register, you must tell them why are they registering, isn't it? They must have an interest in knowing by registering there is power in it. This is why I started with people must know and understand what it means to be sovereign power resides in you.
Yeah.
Because if they don't know the sovereign power resides in me, then voting registration becomes a mechanical thing. So you have to tell those who are qualified to vote that, listen, this is the power you wield. Okay? So you reach them where they are in the language they understand as frequently as you can. Just as even those crusades that you mentioned, these crusades are always in the TV.
Always.
You hear Prophet Flan is going to be in Nakuru, and it's always a month before, and it's done very well. So, equally with registration, you would expect, it is not just a thing you leave to IEBC. It is a thing that the state gets concerned with. The political parties get involved in exhorting voters, go and register, right? I explain to them why do they want them to register and telling them, go and register. IEBC would do it, but it is a thing that for everybody else, and it is expensive. And if you ignore it, if you take it for granted, you will end up with a less than satisfactory voter registry. Particularly if we are talking of a new demographic like the Gen Zs. Why? Number one, we all presume that we know what Gen Zs want, but we hardly engage them. We hardly talk to them, what motivates them. For instance, would they want the registration to be made different? I have heard people say that if you want people to register, let us use the ID card. All right. If you can use the ID card, I don't know how you can do it. But if that can be done to make it, I don't know how you can do it. I don't know how you can use the ID card and still maintain the integrity of the register. But if some way it can be done, if that is the way to facilitate it, because in civilized countries, not civilized, in Western countries, voter registration you can do it online.
Anywhere you
Anywhere you want. So if you make it easier like that, those are ways to make sure, okay, fine, these are the things that we need to do to make sure that we do that. But as long as we say this is a calendar event, we will be falling short. And there is no need to blame IEBC until and unless we have engaged with them and until unless IEBC has been facilitated to do that job.
To do the work.
Well, just a point of information. There's actually a portal where you can confirm whether you've been registered.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not an IEBC official, but just for purposes of clarity, it's verify.iebc.or.ke. So it's a voter verification portal, which says, "Welcome to the voter verification portal. Your vote, your future. Check your voter details." Then the only two things it asks you to check your voting particulars today is your document number, which is your ID number or passport number, and the year of birth, and then confirm you're not a robot. I've entered my particulars, verify now, and it's very fast. It shows my voter details, my first name, surname, county, constituency name where I'm registered, ward name, polling center name, polling station number, and stream. Then you can print voter details to a PDF, or then you can simply go back to verification. So you can actually simply do this quite
You can
easily
do it
from your
online,
phone.
and if you find that there is an issue,
Yeah.
you can actually, okay, well, all right, I guess we did a
That
little
is
bit
what
of
I
proof
told
for
you, that I told IEBC, IEBC, like I told you, they're digitally complex.
All right.
That's true.
So you can actually find it and get it. So obviously there's a lot more in terms of
So
information.
if it is that simple, why are people not doing it?
Well, this is
Well,
why
I've
it's
done
important.
it.
He's just done it right now.
No,
So,
no,
I
no.
mean,
It's okay. He had not done it before.
Yeah.
Now he's done because we have spoken. But there are millions out there who would also do. What do you want them to do? Let them know that it can be done.
This is the thing about communication and information, that
Yes.
if people don't know you can do that, the likelihood of them doing it is decreased significantly. But once you let them know that they can, then you increase the likelihood of them doing it. And that's why information cannot be kept under a bushel. That's why I have these conversations that we do. Major James Oswago has joined us this morning, former IEBC CEO. Thank you for keeping it Kenya's biggest conversation this Monday, the 6th of October. As we get into activities and get into things for the week, let's keep the conversations going. Thank you for doing this with us every morning. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.